Welcome back to Around the Clock. We are here with Jim Adams, the superintendent of the Ashland Public Schools. Jim, welcome to Around the Clock.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a while, but we're glad to have you back.
Thanks. Yeah, it's. I think we did this probably a year ago.
Probably.
Yeah. So it's good to be back. It's good to be back in school.
So you're about 2 months into
we
the
are.
school year.
Yeah, 2 months in. It's going well. It's flying by. It's amazing. It's already Halloween next week.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. It's crazy to think that November 1st is right around the corner.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that comes the first quarter actually of the year being done for seniors at the high school.
Wow.
So
And they're definitely in countdown mode.
Absolutely. Yeah.
A couple of new initiatives going on this year. The first is the school start time change.
Yeah. So how'd
that go?
It's going well. I think with any major change, I think we tend to find little speed bumps along the way, and no different than this year with this initiative. You know, it's moving our start times. We moved our middle school and our high school start times to 8:15 and 8:20 respectively from 7:30 and 7:40. So it's a significant change, almost 50 minutes. The research that's from the American Pediatric Association says that we really should be after 8:30, closer to 9.
Oh, wow.
But it's logistically, it would become a really nightmare that probably would never end. So we had to take into factor, some considerations, family considerations, athletic considerations, the younger kids. Do you flip-flop times or not flip-flop times? And this community was pretty adamant about not having the elementary kids start at 7:20 or getting dropped off. Like the high school kids were dropped off at 7 a.m.
Right. Yeah.
Very early.
I can remember that.
Yeah. So we didn't want that to occur. So our Mendez times and our Warren times stayed relatively close, within 10 to 15 minutes of what they were.
Okay.
But as we've seen throughout this year, I think there'll have to be some tweaks and modifications, which we anticipated. But it's nothing we can do internally throughout in the actual school year.
Right.
Because part of it's negotiated with our union and our teachers.
Right. Contracts and bus contracts.
Exactly. But I think it's going well. I think anecdotally, talking to kids, they've certainly have expressed early on it was challenging, but now they're Julia Sicard, who is our student rep on the school committee, commented recently. She said it's been awesome. It's been great. Her friends, they're all seniors, said has really helped us manage our mornings better. And families have said we have zombies. Or we used to have zombies, sleeping zombies. At least they're awake zombies now, and we can have conversations at the breakfast table.
Yeah.
So again, I think with any major change, it just takes a little bit of time. And in 3 to 5 years, we'll be looking back saying, we did the right thing, one, for the health and well-being of our kids, and that's exactly how the school committee thought about it. This is a public health issue. This isn't about student achievement. This isn't about trying to 100% reduce the stress in kids' lives. Well, guess what? We have to have there are other mitigating factors that cause stress, right?
Yeah.
And some stress is good, we know that. But whether it's the amount of homework we're giving, whether it's students who are involved in way too many outside activities, parental pressures. I'm one, listen, year one, how much do we put the pressure on our own kids? So this is just one component. And I think in the schools, we'll be looking at all the other components. We'll be doing an analysis of our our athletic events, and we actually starting tomorrow, Wednesday, or what's tomorrow? Tuesday. Yeah, the 24th and 25th of October. We're actually doing a major study of our athletic department.
Oh, wow.
We've contracted with the Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic Association, who comes into school districts. They've done this in Connecticut. And they analyze and evaluate the entire athletic program from top to bottom.
Oh, wow.
Sort of like a NEASC review, and that's exactly what it is. They'll provide a report. They've done, we're the first school in Massachusetts to actually undergo this process. So I'm really excited.
Because that leads to my next question. I know that one of the issues when changing the school start time, specifically at the high school, was how it was going to affect your sporting events and your teams and what they were doing after school. What was the impact? Was it as big as we thought, and how was it handled?
Yeah, so I don't think it was as great as people were trying to make it out to be, because we already have, the Tri-Valley League, we already had 2 schools in the league to start after 8 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
So people were forgetting the fact that Medway and Millis both start after 8 and end So Medway ends within 4 minutes of where we're ending our time.
Now,
Their actually
okay.
school day is longer than ours. They start at 8:07, but their day ends just about similar to ours.
Okay.
So when I was having those conversations, I asked our athletic director and asked the ADs of the Tri-Valley to step back for a moment and think
Yeah.
about really when were our buses leaving our yard? When were they leaving the schoolyard?
Right.
And if they're leaving close to 3 and our kids were getting done at 2, or if they're leaving at 2:45, our kids are getting out about that time. So it's requiring kids to be more efficient,
Right.
to have their stuff together. So it was a 15 to 20 minute difference in the end.
Oh, wow.
That's it in the afternoons.
Yeah.
All of our home games are identical times as they were because the other schools are coming to us.
Right.
We weren't starting until 3:30, 3:45. And our kids are out at 2:45. So it's just a different thought process. We still have some issues with certain sports. So golf, because it gets dark so early.
Right.
And we don't have the ability to tell Hopkinton Country Club, for instance, that we're going to start when we get there. Well, no, they have
They
members.
have times. Right. Right.
And they say,
when we get there, yeah, we'll be good.
right. So they say, no, this is when you're going to. Okay. So I think in the fall, we've probably experienced, one of the concerns was, okay, are we going to take kids out of academic classes?
Right.
I bet we've probably done it less than 5 times in the entire fall, and we'll do it less than 5 times in the entire fall season.
Right.
Growing up in Vermont, we actually went to school until after 3 o'clock, and we still played our games.
Right.
And we
Right.
still,
Right.
The thing about a rotating basis schedule at the high school is you're not going to miss the same class every single
day,
time.
right.
So if you've got to be 15 minutes dismissed, and it's a small group of kids, golf, 10 kids.
Right. Right.
So I think it's just a mentality. Like,
Yeah.
You're really taking, well, we're not, if you think about
Right.
how much time do we invest in having pep rallies?
Right, that's the thing. We do pull
Right.
kids out of classes
Yeah.
for other activities. So
Right. So
Good.
it's just how it impacts your own personal life too. I think,
Right,
I think
right.
that's been the biggest change, I think, for our staff, because it certainly impacts their
right,
their
their commuting times,
their commuting times,
in and
their,
out.
their
Yeah.
family life. I mean, I
Right.
get it, and so those are things that we're just monitoring and we'll continue to tweak.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else has been new this year?
We have a couple new schedules at the elementary levels. I think a year of really evaluating the Mendez and the Warren schedules to ensure that, because our population is changing so quickly and the need for our special education students and
Right.
English language learner students to make sure they're getting their services being provided to them on a regular basis and a legal basis, right? So we're
Right.
trying to make sure that, so we tweak the schedules, and this is the first year of that. Actually creating more common planning time for teachers to sit together and talk about kids,
Right.
which is critical.
Yeah,
it's-
especially if they're sharing them. And at the
Yeah.
Mendez, you still have a number of programs where
That's
they
right.
share students. So.
That's right. And so we're working towards those types of things. I think, we feel really comfortable with where we are from an administrative team. I was having this conversation with some other superintendents. We held an administrative forum in Ashland High School this week, and I invited leaders, whether it's building leaders, principals, directors, superintendents from across the Commonwealth to come in.
Oh, nice.
And we did a leadership summit, and we talked a lot about, we're very fortunate here. We have a stable school committee,
Right.
and we have a stable leadership team, which we didn't have
For a long
For a
time.
long time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
with that comes expectations, and staff knows what to expect from us. So that's been exciting.
Good.
But it's not new, but it's finally taking hold in year 2 of having the
Right.
same group.
Good.
So,
Good.
Yeah.
And then the other big news being discussed in town is the potential
Yeah.
for free full-day kindergarten starting next year.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's been something we've been talking about since I became superintendent. So we did a study in 2015, and a report was given to the school committee in December of 2015, December 8th, I think it was. And the report was really clear. Listen, tuition-free kindergarten is the right thing to do for all kids. We know the closing of achievement gaps, which is one of our strategic priorities, that we're closing those gaps. We're seeing a wider gap with our demographic in terms of socioeconomic, more disadvantaged kids, more ELL students.
Right.
So those kids weren't required. So the state doesn't require us to have full-day kindergarten. But the kids who are getting that full day and paying $4,000 are certainly
Definitely advantage over.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
So
having seen both
Right.
between my two children, there's definitely an advantage to
Yeah.
full day kindergarten.
Yeah, so to me, it's an equity, right? It's an equity issue, and it's
Yep.
an issue that if we can solve as a community, and it's really a community decision,
Right.
that to me, that's the right thing to do for our kids. So we're in a position after studying it for 3 years, 4 years, to really consider next year moving away from having families pay $4,000 to go to kindergarten.
Right.
And the mechanism, it's interesting because some people would say, okay, let's continue to phase it out over time. Well, it actually costs us more to phase it out.
Right.
Because we don't get any Chapter 70 funding
For those
for
students.
those years
Right.
that we're phasing.
Okay.
And we wouldn't get any Chapter 70 funding in year one either way. It's the second year you start getting
Right.
the funding. So with the potential of new funds coming to us at Fall Town Meeting, a one-time cash infusion, what that will allow us to do is offset some of the current costs
Okay.
and then take, theoretically take some of the revolving account money that we are using for full day kindergarten and roll that into
next year's.
next year.
Okay.
Because what happens is we get free cash given to us, we have to spend it in the same fiscal year.
Right, right.
Unfortunately, we can't, the only thing we could roll over potentially would be revolving account funds.
Right.
So we're looking at that as a part of a funding mechanism.
Okay.
And then we're also, because of the joint agreement we have with the town and the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen, is the revenue and expense lines from the Maytown meeting to the cherry sheet from the governor's
Right.
final budget
Right.
is another infusion of operating money. So that operating money will be 100% dedicated towards full day kindergarten.
Okay.
So that also then reduces the amount we would have that we need moving forward. So I anticipate this year after the infusion of the operating funds, we will have covered almost 80% of the cost of kindergarten
Oh, wow.
into our operating budget.
Great.
So yeah, so then that 20% remaining gets absorbed.
Right.
That's the theory behind it,
Right.
over the course of 5 years.
Okay.
So by 2025, I would anticipate a deficit, meaning it would have to be absorbed into our operating
Okay.
budget. Unless we're strategic, which I think we are financially,
Right.
it's my background, is that over the next 6 years, we absorb slowly
The cost
the costs.
for that
Yeah,
kindergarten.
so it's sustainable, then by 2025, it's completely
Part of
in
the
the budget, and we're getting approximately $131,000 of extra Chapter 70 funds.
To cover those costs.
costs.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's there. Barbara Duran and I have spent, many months of just looking at the numbers. We had a conversation with our school committee at the summer retreat, and I said, listen, I know it's one of your goals to get this done.
Right.
We can do it.
Yeah.
I have no doubt in my mind we can do it.
Okay.
And again, with the support of the town and
Right.
the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee, I think now is the perfect time.
Good.
Yeah, so.
Well, and I think full day kindergarten for every student is certainly agreeable and
absolutely.
the right thing to do. And if we can afford it as a community, I think people just need to look at the numbers and make
Yeah.
sure and,
Yeah.
and support it if they feel that it's the right thing.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And again, it's to me, again, it goes back to the equity issue.
Right.
Is we don't want to risk having our students falling behind
Right.
because of their plight, right? Because of
Right.
they can't afford it, because of that's just not the right thing. It's not
Right.
morally right. It's not.
It'll also help with our bus costs because it'll be one less run in the middle
Without
of the day.
question, right? Absolutely. So, I mean, I didn't even factor those things
Right,
in, and,
right.
I'm a very conservative, and I had that conversation, and we'll have that conversation with the school committee in the next 2
Yeah,
days
yeah.
at our meeting, and say, listen, I'm very conservative, meaning I'm not even accounting for any other potential increases
Right,
in
or
revenue
savings
or
or-
savings.
yeah.
I'm going with, okay, this is
Straight
max
numbers.
of what it would cost us.
Right.
If we were to ask for an infusion of our operating budget, it'd be like $400,000.
Right.
And that's a lot. And,
It is.
And but in the end, it's 0.008% the deficit in 2025 of our
Right.
of our current budget.
Okay.
That's nothing.
And we
Less than
know that
1%.
between now and 2025, the town budget and the school budget,
Exactly.
both budgets will grow.
Typically grow.
We'll have more revenue,
That's
we'll
right.
have more people,
Right.
so.
Yeah, so I'm excited, and I think
Good.
if we're, as I said to school committee, I don't even feel like we're compromising anything else that we potentially could be asking for
That's good.
within the current budget,
Right,
which
right.
I think is important.
Yeah.
Some would disagree that, whatever money we're getting in the fall town meeting, the net difference, maybe that could go to other staff personnel, et cetera, and it could.
Yeah,
But what's the priority? If the priority is to get to tuition-free
Well,
kindergarten,
right.
this is the time to do it, because that money can
Right.
directly be attributed to those teachers.
Right,
We've got
right.
10 teachers. It's
yeah,
probably $1 million a year for kindergarten, with
Right.
teachers, aides, supplies, things of that nature.
Right.
So it's exciting. Yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah.
well, good.
Yeah. So,
Well, we're going to wrap it up, but hopefully we'll be here next year talking
Yeah.
about some of these things that actually
yeah,
happen. and
it would
we'll
be great,
see.
wouldn't it?
It would
So,
be nice
yeah,
to see.
yeah,
So
good. Well, thank you.
good. Jim, thanks for coming on Around the
My
Clock.
pleasure. Thanks.
Stay with us and we'll be back with more Around the Clock.